Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Welcome to first video I've done in a long time. Sorry that we haven't updated much on the channel, so I wanted to, give you a little video update as to what we've been thinking about, what we've been working on for Party Parrot. I am here in my new little space that I'm super grateful for, that I've had to clean out some stuff out of our house because we live in a condo and my closet was overflowing with video game junk and old Club Penguin knickknacks that I've kept from over the years of working there. And anyways, so here you see, as of yesterday, I've printed out a nice copy of the Party Parrot map in celebration of Party Parrot. But I wanted to give you an update just because it's been a while. B, I just wanted to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you and your family, to everyone who's supported us over the years. And yeah, I know it's been quiet, but we have been doing stuff, and I'm super excited about where we're going to go next. We think, as of basically the last couple of weeks, I think we've found the core mechanic of what will make Party Parrot sing. But before I go into that, I just wanted to say thank you to every contractor who ever contributed to Party Parrot, from artists to writers, producers. Thank you so much to Chili1, Ymuy, Tech70, Dialga, PaintedWater. I'm going to forget people's names, so I apologize. But I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you contributed so far. And to other members of the community, thank you so much for those of you who've been super positive, and encouraging, and reminding us about what it's all for. And I just want to go back to what it's all for. So this is a thank you to Chow. I finally got this framed. I've had this for a little while. It's a painting of the kakapo. Obviously, this is the kind of the core reason for Party Parrot, because this is the player avatar. Everyone who plays Party Parrot is a kakapo, and the kakapo is super special to me because I learned about it just as I was leaving Club Penguin, and I was not looking for a flightless bird that waddles. It just happened to arrive because everyone was putting it on their Slacks and their Discords or whatever, and I kept seeing the cult of the Party Parrot meme going around. But let's take a second and that's the fun part. The not fun part is that this bird could go the way of the dodo. There's only about 250 of them left in the world. In the real world, this is a real bird. The night parrot, the owl parrot, however you want to call it, this is a special bird. And this, to me, is what makes Party Parrot worth pursuing. And I thought it was a good metaphor for the Club Penguin community in a lot of ways, because it's a misunderstood animal. Maybe not everybody understands or knows about this bird that lives in the real world. There's the risk of it being forgotten, of it going extinct. And so that is actually part of the story that I'll get into in a second. So I just want to bring it back to this bird. Again, thanks, Chow, for this painting. Because this is what it's all about to me. And what makes it special is Party Parrot is in this exotic and interesting place. But yeah, anyways, there's also been a lot of criticism of Party Parrot, and that is for good reason, because my plan was to do what happened with No Man's Sky. And I'm not talking about the successful part of No Man's Sky. I'm talking about No Man's Sky made all these promises, or it had these ideas in people's minds of how amazing it could be, right? There was this dream. And I think Party Parrot represents that as well. There was a dream of what could be, right? And but not everybody saw the dream. Other people saw the dream, and then they saw the reality of what was initially launched with No Man's Sky. So I'm talking more about, I wanted to kind of rip off the Band-Aid so to speak. Pardon the expression, but I wanted to get Party Parrot out the door and then start improving upon it. But the problem was when we released it, it didn't have a strong core. And for good reason, a lot of people had the criticism of it doesn't have its own identity yet. And I agree. That's great feedback, because the truth is, and I want to say thank you to everybody who shared that, because that helps me communicate to others who are coming along this journey of making Party Parrot. It helps me communicate that we can't just make a lame Club Penguin clone. People don't like clones of games, right? Even, I'll just say, one of my greatest inspirations the last couple of years was Fields of Mystria. I'll say, like, Party Parrot in a way is going to be a tribute to Fields of Mystria as much as to Club Penguin itself, because this is a game that you could classify as a clone of Stardew Valley, but it's made with such love and care and affection. That team, from everything from the art to the music to the writing, to the layout of where they arrange rooms. I think Fields of Mystria is a masterpiece. I think it's one of the greatest games to come out in the last 10 years. And it's only in early access. I look at what they did with their launch, and they happened to do something really interesting. They were working on it for basically 5 years before early access even launched, before the demo. It was about 4.5 years since their first announcement and buying the domain till when they launched. Launched as in the first launch, early access. And it's one of the very few examples of early access going well for a game. I think so many early access games have been a disaster. And part of that is because I think expectations in the games industry, now that we have so many more games to choose from, it's really easy to dismiss most of the games that are in the marketplace today because you have so much choice at such a reasonable cost. Between Steam sales and these really amazing games coming out for $10, $15. I look at Gemporium, Discounty, these amazing games that have come out recently, and they're quite affordable. So it's a really interesting time for games. It's far more competitive than ever before. I think Club Penguin really benefited from being in the market when there was a lot less choice. And I think one of the most brilliant things that Billy Bob Lane ever said was he pushed Lance to go, we can't just have Lance working on this slowly and coming out in 2010. That was his original projection. He said, we need to bump it up faster. We need to get this out the door now. And then they got it out in 2005. And I think if you had have shifted that date to like Club Penguin launching in 2007, it would have been too late. In fact, it probably would have been too late in 2006. So I have another video plan that I've been working on, but it's been slow for me, so I apologize to you. But I'm going to talk about timing. I'll probably do that on my own Polo Field channel, so it's there if you're interested in hearing me blab. But in any case, for Party Parrot, the issue was, what is its identity? And so this is what a lot of games start with, is what is the core creative pillars of the game? And so I've thought long and hard about this for Party Parrot, for us, and for you. This is a community thing. I would argue that with Club Penguin, community, as in your memories, you playing, you chatting, you making music videos, all of that was probably 60% or more of the value of Club Penguin. All the games and rooms and everything else, it was cool. And the team was super creative, super talented, amazing artists, amazing musicians. And I look at that and I go, well, yes, this is an amazing product with some great engineering in some places, but that's not the core value of it. The core value of Club Penguin was the community. That was the bigger aspect, because if you think about some of the parties, there wasn't much meat on those bones. But man, I tell you, people's memories, and I'm posting a video about that on my Polo channel, about Christmas memories and the holidays. Anyways, I think that is just as important as the game itself and probably more so. What the percentage split is, I'll leave that up to you. You can debate it in the comments. I'm sure you'll have a better opinion than me. Again, I want to be clear. I am not an arrogant guy. Every negative thing I've seen anybody say about me, about how I have no redeemable qualities and all I have is my keytar and I don't know anything, all of these things I've said to myself. But what I've learned is the harder I am on myself, the harder I am on my team. So that was a challenge for our contractors, the times when I was hard on myself about all the mistakes I'd made. Because I was hard on myself, I was hard on the team at times. And so I am so grateful that they were graceful with me for the times that I was, a grumpy old dad, because I am an old dude. But anyways, yeah, so I want to talk about the creative pillars of Party Parrot. What will the identity of Party Parrot be? And I believe the clue is in the name. So really with Club Penguin, the club word was huge because club and the idea that it was like a Club Med for kids, it meant that community was baked into its identity. So what I was really struggling with the Party Parrot World name was, I'm like, well, where does community fit in? And actually, I think the realization was it fits into the world. It's not a world if no one's in it. The times when you log into this sort of early no man's sky with no features, not hitting the promise, just sort of a shallow copycat, all those things, it's just sitting there. It's not living up to its promise. It doesn't have the world. So really, I'm going to break down in the creative pillars, what we've come up with is the 3 things that if I get hit by a bus today or tomorrow, that you can remember that this is how we're going to honor the kakapo in this game. So there's 3 things: party, parrot, and world. So the first one is kind of easy. Party. I think parties are basically core. They were core to Club Penguin. They gave you a reason to come back. Near the end, I would argue the team put in too much emphasis into parties. It was like party, 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 and we didn't have any new stories, new experiences. That's my harsh criticism. I have many harsh criticisms of Club Penguin, by the way. And you may or may not agree with me, but I actually think that we put too much focus on parties near the end. However, I think there's something about the word party that's really strong because it doesn't have to just mean a limited time event or a festival like in Stardew Valley or in Fields of Mystria. It could also mean a party of people, right? So I'm a hardcore RPG player, particularly Japanese role-playing games. And so in those games, like say in the Dragon Quest series, or in Final Fantasy, you have a party. You have a knight and a cleric and a wizard. And, same thing. When you play D&D, you have a party. The party goes on an adventure. And so to me, those are the 2 meanings of party. And it also means that what's important to Party Parrot is this coming together and having celebrations. So breaking down parties, some of the attributes that make something a party is like decorations. You want to visually see, okay, things have changed. When I see the map, I see that it's now, Halloween, or it's the pumpkin spice party. I know that there's something going on where the decorations are up. And my mom, who just passed away this year, it's been actually a really hard year. I lost my cat. I lost my mom. My better half lost her mom. People keep kicking me in the face verbally on social media for made up things. It's been a hard year. And the thing is, I don't know where I was going with that. The point is, a party needs decorations. My mom's thing about parties was we used to joke. We'd be like, hey, look, there's some balloons up and a tent. It must be a festival, right? But I think that works. As soon as you see streamers and bunting and colorful lights and balloons, it's a party. So that's going to be important to Party Parrot. In a way, what I was trying to do, and I've given this example before to Lance and others, my joke with Party Parrot originally was that Party Parrot's inspiration is Garfield minus Garfield. So Garfield minus Garfield just takes existing Garfield comic strips and removes Garfield altogether and any of Garfield's dialogue so that it's just John talking to Odie and Garfield and Odie and Garfield never say anything. So it just looks like this madman talking to himself. And it's hilarious because it's like you remove something and suddenly it's just not the same. So my joke is that Party Parrot version 1 is like, Club Penguin minus Penguin, which means it's a club, I guess. I don't know. It just makes me laugh. But anyway, so another key part of partying is music. If you go to a party where there's balloons and streamers and stuff up and there's no audio and it's as quiet as this room or as quiet as a library, it doesn't exactly come across as a party, So I think in terms of the vibe, music is a core thing, not just to Party Parrot, but selfishly to me. I started as a music journalist. I played in bands. I have this fun story where I went to Coachella one year, and I shared this story with Scott and Lance. I went to Coachella one year, and we're in the middle of 200,000 people. I think it was the year that Club Penguin got acquired, 2007. And we were in the middle of a parking lot, and I just happened to go on this trip with a bunch of my friends, and one of those friends was the drummer in our band. And we're down there in the middle of like the desert with 200,000 people in a dirt parking lot. It's just a field of dirt where everybody's parked. And then this guy starts walking towards us, and he's wearing our band's shirt. It was so wild because we're up from, in the middle of nowhere in BC. And then we meet this guy, and then we start talking to him, and he's Australian. And it just so happened that he lived up here to go skiing for a little while, and he got one of the shirts. It was the most weird, surreal moment. Anyways, I'm obsessed with music. I buy music magazines. I collect music. One of the things I know the best is just music. Collections of bands, the Beatles, whatever. That's one of my greatest influences. So it's important to me that Party Parrot can carry forward that spirit of this, huge catalog of music that we licensed. So we paid a whole bunch of money, thousands of dollars, to license all these royalty free. You still have to pay money to license them. We licensed a whole bunch of the music that we used to use at different moments across different parties in Club Penguin's history because, I wanted to carry that DNA forward. But we also want new music, and we've already got some amazing music. And, on the positive feedback side, a lot of you have shared that you really love, Screenhog's music. What a surprise. The man is amazingly talented, and he composed some music for Party Parrot. And of course he nailed it. Big shock. So yeah, anyways, the good thing is we're going to just keep that spirit going. But we're going to bring that even into more experiences. So the core game mechanic that is going to be sort of an anchor for the world, like the thing that everything can pivot foot off of, is going to be basically a music card game. And I'll get into that later as we go and we prototype and I can show you things. But yeah, anyways, super excited about it, and we'll get into that later. But that's the party. Second word is parrot. And so obviously parrot, well, duh, it's a parrot. Look, a parrot. And it's a night parrot, right? So it would be, if I just said, oh, it's a parrot, you'll think Polywana Cracker and you'll think tropical parrot. That's why it's important to me that Party Parrot is always anchored in its nocturnal nature. The fact that this is the only nocturnal parrot, and that's the hero of our story, that's really important. So just remember, it's night because of this parrot, because that is our hero. This is the endangered bird, critically endangered, that we want to honor. So it'll always be night. But not always night. I love a day-night cycle. It's just so engaging when you play through any of the modern cozy games or Animal Crossing or whatever. It's great having a day-night cycle. It's just much more compelling. I love seeing that some of the private servers are doing that with Club Penguin. It always should have been. If there's one feature I wish we could have had in Club Penguin, it's the day-night cycle. So seeing that come to life now is pretty cool. I really dig it. But the other thing that's interesting about parrot, besides the fact that we're going to say this is the specific parrot, the night parrot, the owl parrot, the party parrot, To parrot, if you look it up in the dictionary, this is where it's pretty funny. To parrot means to copy blindly. And I thought, man, that just seems so negative, to copy blindly. But I'm like, but let's be real. I'm like, it started with like the foundation of Penguin. So did Roblox, by the way. They started with, here's the feature set that we had in this game that we loved before. It was an MMO. It had chat. It had chat safety. It's the exact same foundation that Roblox started with. But they just made it part of their investment thesis and went further to go, how could we let players make their own worlds? And they've done it to a staggering effect, right? And they inherit all of the problems that, we inherited as well. It's not easy stuff. But anyways, that's where we started, was we had this thing of like, well, that's the feature set that every virtual world has. It's not unique to Penguin. It was in Moshi Monsters. It was in Animal Jam, like all the virtual worlds of the early 2000s. It's all, or mid 2000s, I guess. That was the feature set. I thought, it'd be pretty funny if you could basically carry that across into a core mechanic. So we have this core mechanic of copy blindly. We're going to make copy blindly, if that's what it means to parrot something. Why don't we make that a core mechanic? To copy blindly. So we've got this idea of snapshots, and the idea that you can, take a picture and get like an instant print of it, kind of like a Polaroid. And you're like, oh, I want to copy that outfit, right? I want to copy that building. We're going to make that core to Party Parrot. Why not? We're already copying. Like, everything is a remix. You look at the Led Zeppelin catalog, go and do your research. If you want to watch a really interesting video, watch Everything is a Remix. It basically talks about how Led Zeppelin, a lot of what they did was a copy. The original Star Wars movie was copying the past. Some of the biggest early, and going on for many, many years, many Disney films were based on their copies of Grimm's fairy tales. It's all about how, right? So if it's just without taste and there's no nuance to it, that's when it's not interesting. If it's just a shallow copy, like here's another match 3 game, whoop-de-doo. That's not interesting. What's interesting is if there's an artist touch to it where it's original, because it's kind of borrowing from a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's mixing. So yes, it's got elements that are copied, but it's totally different. If you look at the game, like look at first-person shooters today, biggest genre in the market, everything's a copy of itself. Like Fortnite was a copy of PUBG, but it had its own original spin on it. So anyways, that's parrot. That's what it means to parrot. Copy blindly, and a specific type of parrot. The next one, of course, is world. And so we touched on it earlier, but to make a world, it needs a community, which means that we'll have community features. What that looks like, we'll figure that out, obviously. But that's one aspect. The other aspect, because, again, that goes without saying, but the other aspect of world is it's not just one island, right? So it's important to me that there are multiple locations. To me, I don't see, this is weird to say, but I don't even see Club Penguin Classic as a world. I know that sounds bonkers, because there's not enough locations until you get into the lore. And that's where the world comes out, because you have this implied story where, Rockhopper goes to Rockhopper Island, a different location. He goes to Shipwreck Island. He goes to these other islands. So really what I love is like the Rockhopper's Quest and some of those parties where you go to different locations. That's where the promise of Club Penguin being a world happens. And so what I want is I want the world to be shaped by the call and response of the team who's making Party Parrot, and the players are making part of it too. And that's why world building and making world and building is so important to me. Like, I grew up playing SimCity in the early 90s because I'm old. So I'm pre-Sims. And one of my favorite games, because I had a Commodore 64 back in the mid 80s, again, aging myself. But when I was a kid, I would play this game called Fast Tracks Construction Set. It was an Activision game, and it allowed you to build your own racetracks. So, you'd put one track and you could have some that would do this wiggle. It was like a track piece would face straight, or it would curve, or it curved to the right. And I love the fact that it was like it was a choose your own adventure course you could make. And I know it was super primitive because basically when you play the game, you're driving these little remote RC cars and you don't really control them. But the fact that you made that course and you made it veer off into a broken abyss where the player, if they choose that path, they die, it was super fun. Like, there's something really engaging about being able to build. One of the games that came out recently there's a huge inspiration is Tiny Glade. If you've seen it, they built it in Rust, which is super cool for the engineering geeks in the room. What I love about Tiny Glade is it's just let's focus on building. Let's focus on designing and shaping and terraforming an environment. I love that stuff. And so that's the other part of World. And then the last piece of World is lore. And there's a really great video that I'll link below. It's basically an extra credits video that we used to reference a lot back in the Penguin days. And it basically breaks down the difference between story, lore, and narrative. They're kind of three different things. And to me, lore is like, this is the environment that's implied that kind of tells a story by itself without any text, without any writing, without any dialogue. It's just the environment. It's environmental storytelling. And there's this implied history to things. One of the criticisms that a few folks had is very valid, which is you would walk into Party Parrot and nothing was explained. And so part of that was by design, that I didn't want to necessarily like tell it all up front. I wanted to basically imply it. But the negative side that we didn't do as well as we should have was have the world unfold. And I think that was something that made Club Penguin super special, was it didn't start perfect and it didn't start complete. It was like, it started with a fence and it said Penguin construction, under construction. And it just over time, it was like, okay, well now this is coming and there'll be this construction state of a room. And then eventually the room will be finished. Voila, the stage is done. And we didn't do that on Party Parrot. Specifically, again, because I was trying to build an MVP in an old school way, which was, you can't really do it anymore. It used to be that you could go, here's my incomplete game. Here's the ideas that we have of where it could go. Let's work on it together. But the problem is if there's not a strong foundation, right? And we basically were running out of time. We had very, very limited amounts of time available to make stuff. And because there was like basically 4 months before we had to launch, and we only had an almost complete like Connect 4 game for 4 players and didn't even have any other player count modes. It was just 4 players only. That's when we made the decision to basically, we're going to have to go and buy some game templates and do some quick reskins so that there's something to do, because I wanted to prove out the loop of you go somewhere, talk to someone, play a game, earn coins, use the coins to collect items where you can customize. And that was a very shallow core game loop. I wanted to see if that loop works. And to be honest, yes, it kind of works insofar as, players like yourselves who went and played, went and tested stuff, played the game, tried it out. But really, like, the games provided probably a couple minutes worth of gameplay. There wasn't much there. So there wasn't enough meat on the bones to actually even want to stick around with Parrot. And we knew that. So that's why we made the decision to just close it, is not because we're like, let's throw everything away that we started. No, it was just, we need a stronger core starting point. And I'm super excited about the stronger core starting point. And I'll just say, like, we're going to respect the arrangement of this island that you've seen, but visually it will look different because we're going to build it differently. And that's part of the world building component of Hideaway. So we'll get into that. I don't want to show it because it'll be like kind of spoilery. But anyways, that is what we're working on, and it's a tremendous amount of work. It's not going to be a done in 6 months job. Like, this is going to take us some effort. And so the good thing is we're kind of dividing and conquering. So the world building piece is so significant. That's what Lance, aka rsnail, the guy who created Penguin, he's leading the world building. And I'm really focusing on this, the music, the lore, this core card game loop. So that you basically have a chain of, you don't just have a core game loop, you have a game chain. So it's a chain to me is like, there's some good videos on this on YouTube. I'm sure you've probably already seen them if you're interested in game design, but it's a loop, a few loops that string together to make a chain. So it's like a loop of loops, I guess. So yeah, anyways, I just wanted to thank you guys for your patience, and gals, and everywhere in between. Thank you so much for, putting up with me and putting up with the delays and everything. And if it seemed confusing, I apologize. If you do want to follow along and hear what we've got next, we're going to be doing the bulk of our updates on Patreon. Just because, again, time-wise, I really want to make sure that we're pouring our time and effort into the core game itself, and that I'm not getting distracted by jumping into like Discord threads, because the reality is it just takes a lot of time away from stuff. And yeah, I hope this was a meaningful update to you. Again, happy holidays. Thank you so much for everyone who's followed along with everything we've done so far. And yeah, hope to hear from you again soon. So anyways, if you got any questions or anything you want to ask, or complaints or feedback, whatever, it's all good. You can share it in the comments below. I have a thin skin, but I'll still listen along, and I'll try my best to answer you guys. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and take care.